Hello, this video is for Dr. Pimple Popper. I think her name is Dr. Lee.
Dr. Sandra Lee.
Dr. Sandra Lee. We watch you, my dear one. I'm Dr. Morse. I'm a naturopath, biochemist, iridologist, and I've been in the field almost 50 years now.
Same, naturopath, iridology, and studying the lymph for years now. Multiple years. So
we wanted to discuss, because we watch your video and we think as an allopathic physician that you're a step above, in the sense that you're opening up these cysts, and sometimes you call them cysts but they're tumors. I think you know that, and that's been my forte for almost 40 some years. I brought out the fact of the kidney filtration of the lymphatic system. And we're doing this video to help you out a little bit if you find that you could use this. Some allopaths are narcissistic enough, they don't want to listen, but the lymphatic system is becoming more and more relevant, and should have been all along, because when you understand the lymphatic system and the fact that chemistry only has two sides to it, acid and base, and that metabolitic waste fall on the acid side of chemistry, and when you open up these tumors, you see all that gooky prine or whatever you call it, and you see there's dead cells, but there's also metabolitic waste. And this is important to understand, that when you see a tumor, you see a cyst, you see swelling, you see lymphedema. And I saw a show the other day, we were talking about psoriasis, and you suppress this guy's immune system, which is a big no-no. Because what happens when you do that is that you suppress the adrenal glands and then the blowback on them. I've worked almost 50 years with skin problems, because we have a lot of young people that were on Accutane that's killed themselves because of this, and they've tried steroids, and steroids only suppress, and then the blowback is twice as bad. And I think you know that. As a dermatologist, you would know that. So it's important to understand the lymphatic system, and you know how to clean all that up. That man with psoriasis the other day, you could clean him right up, head to toe. Easy done. But to understand that, you have to understand how the body gets rid of metabolitic waste. Mm-hmm. So the University of West Virginia just found the lymphatic system in the brain, almost 3 years ago? Yeah. And then the lady before that, a professor, found the glymphatic system of the brain. Now that's just the brain. We have A&P professors that teach with us. We have one in particular who's a medical doctor who is an A&P professor, and she's a biochemistry professor. And we have a video up on our YouTube site of me and her talking about the lymphatic system. Very important to learn that, because if you don't learn that, then you classify everything as diseases. You wonder why a cell becomes damaged and they call it a cancer cell. You wonder why all that exists. When you understand the lymphatic system and the fact that the body has to get rid of these acids, these metabolitic acids, and how does the body do that? The blood obviously is not the channel. The blood is the nutritive channel, the alkaline base channel. You cannot acidify the blood. Acidifying the blood, you actually know what happens when you acidify the blood.
Absolutely.
So we want to do this video to kind of bring you up to speed to the great lymphatic system, and realize that the lymphatic system systemically is hooked to both kidneys and the skin. Those are the eliminative organs of the great lymphatic system, or you'll see pus and mucus ooze out of any hole you got. Mm-hmm. Belly buttons, mouth, ears, you'll see all this happening. Or you'll see your pimples, you'll see your boils, or you'll see your tumors.
Tumors in the breast, when women open them up and stuff, and all that nasty stuff.
Same stuff.
Yeah, you smell it every day, probably more than we do.
Yeah, we get off on your videos, they're pretty cool, but I've talked about this for years, that the same thing can happen with internal tumors. You can debride them, you can clean them out and open them up. You don't have to insult the tissue around there. The problem is that you've got to address the cause of these problems, not address the symptom. So you're addressing the symptom, which is great. A lot of people are getting a lot of relief from that, but they have to understand what's causing them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's behind it, the underlying
cause. Yeah. So to understand that, you understand what is the actual role of the kidneys. How does the body eliminate metabolitic waste? And it doesn't go up into the inferior vena cava and back circulating through the blood. So that's ridiculous thinking. It doesn't exist. And when you understand this, and you understand the lymph system, then you understand what happens when people eat acid-ash foods, and why you see the calcium loss and calcifications of tumors and all of that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
The kidneys, major player. Right kidney drains the right side lymphatically. The left kidney drains the left side of the body lymphatically. Each adrenal gland, of course, controls kidney function to a certain extent, right? So looking at the kidneys, allopathy thinks urine should be clear, and that if you see sediment in the urine, you have an infection, and that's insanity thinking. We've seen allopathic people kill our clients because we got them filtering. You must filter. If your urine is clear, you're in trouble. That's the
You get
bottom line.
about 1 million filters on each kidney, and you know, not filtering, you have filters on everything: your furnace, your air conditioner, your pool, the oil of your car. And we don't think about the filters of the kidneys, but you got about 1 million of them on each side.
And you've got to be able to filter, so when you pee in a jar, you should see the same white stuff, maybe not in geeky form, but in snowflakes. You should see sediment in that urine. And if you're not, then you're not filtering. Then the skin has to take up the burden of that. When the thyroid's down and the body's too cold, then you can't sweat that out. So then you start developing subcutaneously. You start having acidosis, and that's when you start to see psoriasis, eczema, you name it, you see it. And that's all different levels of acidosis. So look at interstitially, because this is where the issue is. If you look at the body as a physician, you know the body's just a bunch of cells and two fluids. Two fluids besides water. And what are these two fluids?
Blood and lymph.
Blood and lymph. So interstitially, you see about 20% blood and 80% lymph fluids. But that lymph fluid is hooked, and we found ducts, and ducts lead to the kidneys. And the kidneys are the filter and the skin, because the skin has to get rid of not only waste, but gases. If you watch the skin, you'll see gases emit from the body that way. Holding gases through the kidneys could be a little not fun. You know, so when you understand this whole thing and the lymph node involvement, understand it's this simple. Cells create metabolitic waste. This is why interstitial fluid is 80%, up to 80% lymph fluid. And why is it a lipid? Because it neutralizes acids better than electrolytes. You'll burn your electrolytes right up in an acidic medium. We're lipids. So this is why your lymphatic fluids are a cholesterol-based fluid. Why is the phospholipids around a cell HDL? What is the role of cholesterol? So an understanding the buffering mechanism and the neutralization of acid is essential. And why do you see edema? You know, why does the body osmotically pull in water? And again, acidosis. If you don't neutralize acids, and acids are corrosive to the human body. And if you don't stop them, that's where you see the blowback to the cell. Inflammation, when it's extracellular, then you see the mutation of the DNA, the organelles of the cell, when it's intracellular acidosis. How can you have intracellular acidosis if a cell's eliminating their waste properly? You don't. You have stagnation. And stagnation is when the kidneys quit filtering. And these high-protein diets are inflammatory, acid-ash foods, and create swelling of the human body. And after a while, the kidneys quit filtering. When that happens, then this whole highway all the way back to the cell backs up. The lymph nodes swell, and of course they can't filter anymore. You can't get the cells. That's why you see dead cells in these tumors, because the macrophages can't even have any cells to chew on, because the lymphocytes can't get the cells from the tissues to the lymph nodes. And then the bacteria, that in the lymph nodes, everybody uses antibiotics to kill the bacteria in the human body, yet the bacteria is how you take these 3 pH metabolitic acids, 3 pH, and gives them at least up to 6, because you don't want to be on your knees peeing 3 pH. So,
that doesn't sound fun.
Doesn't sound fun, does it? So we've been working for years and years, and that's why we're successful the world over with tens of thousands of cases of curing themselves of everything under the sun. Tumors, we get people that are in wheelchairs walking. What deteriorates the human body? Which side of chemistry? You only have 2 to pick from. And so when you make it simplistic, my dear one, you will find the answers to your questions. Well, I don't know why this is here. Yeah, we do, and we can tell you how to fix it. We can drain those tumors through the kidneys and the skin. You're cutting them open, debriding them, and that's great with a big tumor. These women are suffering. But when you insult a tumor, you get a biopsy, who cares if the cancer cell's in a tumor? Who cares? That tumor's isolated that area. And you're going to have that because that is all acidic, necrotic stuff. That's why you smell so much. So when it's interstitially wrapped, yeah, those cells are goodbye. So what? The body will rebuild that. You've got to focus on why you have a tumor, a boil, a cyst, even lipomas. Why do you have fat building up? We've had what I call the dragon backs. We can drain that all out and get that naturally without you. I saw her pull 30-some lipomas
Saw
in
that.
one lady's arm and 30 on the other arm. I think it was 70-some lipomas. What's creating that? We'll take a look at the lady. She was obese. She has kidneys. You can see the kidney weaknesses. The adrenals are obviously down. So you can see, and we watch those people you work on, and there you go. You see the kidney and the adrenal weaknesses, don't you, every time?
Absolutely.
Every time.
Every time.
So real important. We thought we'd throw this together, whether you like it, throw it away or not. It's important. We have it on our YouTube site so you can view. We train practitioners the world over how you take someone from tumor-ridden to Wellville, what we call Hellville to Wellville.
Yeah.
If you're in a chair, we rebuild you, whether it's ALS, brain lesions, what's causing brain lesions. So when you get to understand that if you don't remove metabolitic waste, and that was this one professor from Rochester University in New York, right?
Yep.
And he was saying that you can't sleep, and this is how they're getting this lymphatic system. You can't sleep on your stomach or back because you can't drain properly. And you can't get rid of the debris out of the brain. Now, this is a PhD at Rochester. He also then further, thank God, further defined the debris as metabolitic waste.
Yeah.
And so, taking it one step further, what side of chemistry are metabolitic wastes on? And then, when you know that acids are corrosive to the human body, and you realize that any stagnation of that would create inflammation, which is a natural response of the body to acidosis or proteins, then you start to understand what's going on here. And then how do you get remedy?
Well, we don't even, half the time we don't even attribute nutrition to balancing the body and
hydrating the body.
Hydrating the body. But when you look at it, we don't even come close to understanding how to eliminate the waste within the body. And more people are getting sick, and more highlights are being put on blood and cells and different things like that, but no one's even looking at the lymphatic system, which is your main way of getting rid of the lymphatic, the cellular waste.
Yeah, when you look at that body's exhibit from China, we were talking about that. Kind of cool. I think every med school should have a body's exhibit like that, naturopathic schools, because it is pretty cool. Even high schools, really, because you should learn about the body when you're young. We have children all over the world that are on raw and getting into their health. Even Dr. Oz put 12 people to the zoo and put them on raw. Why did he do that? And the story is hydration, electrolytes, because as the body retains metabolic acids, you dehydrate. Acids dehydrate the body. So the only way to remedy that is on the other side of chemistry. You can't add more acids.
Right.
That's why chemotherapy destroys tissue. Radiation destroys more tissue. Well, then the blowback is tremendous. And that's the problem. It's why you're losing people in your modality big time, because you're killing too many people with this. So understanding the lymphatic system.
Well, in order to even develop a tumor, you have to have stagnation to that area.
Exactly.
And
Or
the
swelling.
thing is, you go in and you kill that off with chemo and radiation, and you just create even more.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you didn't fix the root problem, and you added to it.
Well, when you introduce chemo to the blood, where does the blood go? Interstitially from head to toe. So now you're adding more acids to a highly acidic medium. And then I had a chemist in here that kept saying, he came in with skin, with psoriasis and all this, and he says, well, I've got alkalosis. And I looked at him and said, I'm a chemist. And I said, I disagree with your chemistry. He goes, what do you mean? I said, you have acidosis. He says, no, I don't have alkalosis. So he argued with me, but he still followed my program because I cleaned him right up. So one day he's coming in here sweating all over, and I said, here's some pH papers, my dear one. Take a draw. See if it's alkalosis. Of course, he didn't even change the paper. He was so acidic. He was eliminating these 3 pH acids out of the skin. Well, when you eliminate 3 pH, that's Coca-Cola acids. You're going to feel it. You're going to redden the skin. You're going to feel it. The bladder's going to have cystitis. You don't want to pee out, and that's a benefit of bacteria in the lymph nodes, breaking down these metabolitic acids from 3 and getting them, at least however you look at it, down or up to 6. Very important.
And then you have all these antibiotics that are killing off the bacteria. The good bacteria in the lymph nodes.
That's when you see the arthritises, the fibromyalgia, the lupus, and the Lyme's, and those people that have been on antibiotics to treat their little cold and flu-like symptoms instead of letting the body clean itself out.
Yeah.
Then they treat this, and when you start killing systemic bacteria, you get yourself in trouble. And you guys got to learn that. I remember on Dr. Poe, they have another veterinarian called Dr. Brenda, and they brought this pit bull in, had a swollen lymph node on the neck. Well, everybody that has any brains knows that all the dog chain, has kidney weakness. That's just in the breed of all the canines. And so she said, well, let me cut the lymph node out and see if I can figure out why. So what happens when you cut out a lymph node between the eliminative organs and the cells? You eliminate the ability of the body to remove those acids from the cell to the kidneys. And that's serious. Then you really compromise your patients. Back in the day when they removed those too many axillary lymph nodes, I had lung cancer like crazy in these people because same area of lymph drainage.
Right.
And the kidneys are just right here, dear one, right here. So very important.
You remove a sewage, a septic tank, and yet you still keep using that bathroom, you're going to be in a little bit
you
of
would
trouble.
never go out when your septic tank's full. You would never go out and kill the bacteria in it, thinking that you're going to empty your septic tank.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous because the bacteria is there to break down the acids or the metals, and vital to understand that. So when we have cases, no matter what level, we're always hydrating them and getting the kidneys to filter. And when that happens, the tumors come out, all the lesions heal, and they start walking again, they start talking again. If they're in a neurological stance, if they're in a tumored stance, they come out, and then the tissue rebuilds wherever the damage is. When you insult the body even further, then you add more damage and you start compromising the body, and you never fix the reason why.
Yeah.
We love the fact that you're opening up these tumors and proving our point big time. You're proving our naturopathic perspective, at least ours here. There's a lot of naturopaths that are going to medical schools that do not understand this. But the lymphatic system is vital to understand, and A&P classes do not teach it. I do have A&P professors. If you're interested, I'll have her do a video for you, and she'll help explain more of the lymphatic system and how it works. But understand that there's eliminative organs hooked to this gigantic lymphatic system, and that you're bilaterally hooked to this. Your right kidney drains the right side, like I said, and the left side. Notice that a lot of people have more problems on one side over another. It'll hit the other side.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. And even being able to explain to your clients what this is that they're getting out, of course there's cells within there. There's dead cells, there's damaged cells, but there's also all kinds of other things, and it's just because it's made up of the lymphatic fluid. It's all kinds of waste.
That's why it's oily.
So, exactly.
She said, oh, this is oily. Yeah, it's oily, all right, because that's a cholesterol or lipid-based system. You have to. A water-based system like the blood cannot handle high acidosis. It just, it's like when you eat acid ash food. Certain foods leave an acid ash. Mm-hmm. Well, that dump in the blood then stresses the pH of the blood. As you know, as a physician, blood is around 7.4. You stress that and bring that down, guess what happens? 3 minutes and you're out of here. So what does the body do to compensate for this? And it's not bicarbonate. Great universities out there have proved the fact that there's a calcium buffering system. The bicarbonate is a small system, but the calcium buffering system, what do you see? Calcium draw. So now you see bone spurs, you see your calcifications, you see petechia bruising easy, you see varicose and spider veins, because you see wrinkled skin, because the body is using the calcium to try to buffer the acids, because if acids win, you lose.
Pulling it from the blood, the hair, the nails, the bones, the teeth. Exactly.
Anywhere. That's soft teeth, anywhere. And then if you have a parathyroid weakness on top of that, or a pituitary and a parathyroid, you can't put the calcium back. Then you get in depressions, postpartum depressions, when the baby's stealing the mama's calcium, and mama can't put the calcium back. So vital to understand some of these things, because you're such a good doc that I think that it would really help to help your clients understand why they are forming these and how to fix the why. Debrief them, take them out, is cool stuff, getting rid of the pocket, but they'll come back somewhere else. Because if you don't remove stagnation of the lymphatic system, you can't get rid of metabolitic waste.
Yeah.
And these are acids, my dear one, and they'll take a toll on the human body. You see it everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. And we fix everybody the same. Same problem universally.
Yeah.
High protein diets damage the kidneys. Matter of fact, we had one guy that lost a kidney. His other kidney, his creatinine was way the heck up there, so they removed one kidney. He's got one kidney left. His creatinine is only about 1.5, which is still too high. But now we're trying to get that to filter and save that kidney. And his urologist said, you might want to stay away from proteins. They damage the kidneys. Mm-hmm. First time I've ever heard a urologist tell a patient the truth. You cannot do these high protein diets and not get kidney damage. Because our clinic works with Mr. Olympia, we work with the bodybuilders, we work with the football people, and because they've been pumping high proteins, well, guess what they end up with? Kidney failure, RA in particular, they lose their joints, they lose everything. Bodybuilders have rectal blowouts, because you're ravishing the body with acids, and the body's going to steal the calcium out of it to buffer that. Try to anyway.
or you're going to start seeing increased cholesterol and things like that.
Increased cholesterol and then strokes and heart attacks and things like that. And then trauma. You know, we work with trauma all the time here. And trauma is acidic. And why can't you repair trauma? We rebuild tissue at levels you would be shocked. And so look at our YouTube site, and you'll see a youngster.
Yeah.
This made me cry to put that video up. You were working with this young lad.
Yeah.
Incredible case. Cerebral palsy and a whole bunch of lists this long, right? Emaciated 7-year-old, small limbs, large torso.
Yeah.
Take a look at him after a few months on our program. You did an amazing job with this young
his mom did all that.
The mom was amazing, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So she's up on the video talking about it, or she's up on some of our Facebook sites. But check some of these cases out, dear one. You'll be impressed, as we are of you debriding it. But
or like Friday, 9 tumors gone.
9 tumors gone.
Doctor asked who did your surgery.
No surgery, detoxing.
Yeah.
And 9 tumors gone, honey. And you're taking them out, which is okay. When we have massive tumors, we get breast tumors that encompass the breast, and more so. I mean, that's what we're famous for, is cleaning these out. But when you get them too big, holy crap.
Well, our struggle is finding surgeons that will even touch these things.
Touch these things.
Know?
She's one ballsy surgeon.
Exactly.
And I love that, Dr. Lee, because you're showing that don't be afraid of this stuff. Understand it. Don't be afraid. And when you have a tumor, you can have a tumor the size of a football, not going to kill you, and unless it's pressing on something. Like I had a bile duct tumor. That would have been an interesting one to open up, get rid of, and sew that back and let that heal. Instead of killing the patient, you don't have to do that. You have to understand the system that these tumors are hooked to, and it's not the blood. There's only one other fluid out there, and that's the great lymphatic system.
Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of ignorance in the lymphatic system. Matter of fact, there is a society of physicians, medical physicians, I think there's a couple of naturopaths in it, the Society of Lymphologists, and they think it's the lymphatic system there just to buffer blood proteins.
Yeah.
Oh, so much more. And some of these great universities are finding out more and more of the lymphatic, piggybacking the vascular system. And what they found, the University of West Virginia found that you cannot see these lymph vessels in cadavers. That's why they haven't been able to see them. And these bodies had every tissue in the body, even the vascular system, except one. They did not have the lymphatic system because they do not know the kidney and skin connection to eliminate. These are the main eliminative organs of what? Where do you think you eliminate? You don't eliminate, well, what? How does the body bring in nutrition? Where does the body bring in elements, and then the body burns those? And whether it's AD, AMP, any of the triphosphates, any of the nutrition the body's burning, there's always going to be residues, and those residues are acids predominantly. Yeah. And they don't all turn to water, like carbon dioxide. They all don't turn back to water. So you've got major elimination needs by the human body that no one's looking at.
Yeah. And you have 5 primary ways that you eliminate. Bowels, urinary, which is kidneys and adrenals, the lymph, the lungs, and the skin. Well, you've got a tumor in the lungs. You're not going to poop that out.
No.
You're not going to cough that out. Although we have had a couple.
Oh man, they cough some of these tumors up. You wouldn't even believe some of the crap that comes up out of people.
Yep. It's not just going to pop out of the skin, although we've seen that as well, and you see that more often than any. You've got to break that down and eliminate it through the kidneys.
Yeah. We can actually pull those tumors right out. I pulled tumors out of the liver before. I pulled tumors all out of the body. And
but what happens when you open that portal?
Exactly.
The lymph that's all back behind that wants to eliminate, and
the same stuff she's getting out. And you can pop this stuff out. Matter of fact, some people have multiple. I had a nun, Catholic nun, who got like 4 tumors out of her breast. And once we opened that and started the drawing, the astringent on that, then she started popping tumors out, and then they healed up, and everything was good. So that's cool stuff, but if you learn this, Dr. Lee, you will be the premier dermatological surgeon, and you'll be able to explain over your comrades. I had a medical doctor from Canada come down and gave me a great big hug here a couple of years ago, and he said, I just cured a lymphedema case. We don't cure lymphedema, he said, because we don't understand the lymphatic system. By listening to our videos, and his wife was understanding this much more than he, and then she goes, listen to this. So he started using these methods of hydration and getting the kidneys to filter. He started curing lymphedema cases, and he's in with 7 other physicians, and they're going, what? So be on the cutting edge as you are now, honey, and
Yeah.
you'll be amazed. And I don't even know if you'll get this video, but if you'll take the time to listen to this, you will enjoy the knowledge you're gained from understanding the lymph system more.
Yeah. Well, if you look at interstitial fluid, that's where the little capillaries of the blood vessels deliver everything. That's your like your delivery system.
That's it.
That is, I mean, it delivers hormones, it delivers nutrition, your fats, your glucose, your proteins, all of this stuff. And then they wonder what's in interstitial fluid.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the same thing. It's fats, it's proteins, it's glucose, it's cells, damaged, dead cells that the body has to get rid of. We turn over almost 80 million cells a day.
look at the amyloid plaque in the brain. When you see this, because we have those cells, remember you pull those cells, and you can see the protein adherence to that, and then you can see the body's defense of that, all the mucus and stuff around that. And that's just the body's defense trying to protect the cell. And after a while, you can't protect the cell. Well, then the cell has to go where? When a damaged cell, that's A and P. What happens to a damaged cell? Where does it go? Right to the lymph nodes. Well, what if the highway is blocked? You can't get those cells to the lymph nodes for macrophage activity. So then you have tissue stuck there. And then
On the way to work today, left 2 lanes of traffic were blocked because of a car that had flipped. It was a parking lot
there you go.
on the freeway.
Same thing.
Exactly. When you can't eliminate, when you can't get through or get around.
Exactly. So there's a lot to learn about that, some fun stuff. We teach how the pituitary and the parathyroid deal with this in a way, and then how the adrenals deal with that. So real important to take a look at that. And if you do, you'll be able to explain, and you will get a following, like, of course you probably already do, because I'm sure there's tumors out the butt, because we get them. We're so inundated with thousands and thousands of people, because that's what we do for a living. Is we help you to understand why you have tumors, why you have inflammation, why cells are being damaged, no matter what you call them, and then how you fix that. There's undue fear, understanding what they call the cancer cells. That's undue fear. You have to understand what's damaging that cell and how you stop that and how you repair those tissues.
Well, we've got to stop looking at suppression as the possible answer rather than expectoration.
Yeah.
Our problem is we've not expectorated, we've not eliminated like we're supposed to. You yourself talk about the different processes. You have to digest, you have to absorb, you have to utilize, and finally you have to eliminate. And that is where all these diseases are coming from, is we are not, I use that term loosely. Disease, it's dis-ease, it's just the body letting you know that there's an issue, but that's where all of these names are popping up. You can walk out of a doctor's office today with over 250,000 potentially different diagnoses, and yet there's less than like 11 or 12 systems of the body. So depending on what you look at and how you look at it. And so going after the root of those systems and what's happening to those systems rather than the symptom is the key.
It is a key. And I think one of the biggest keys in our field is that we don't treat. We don't treat symptoms, because there's always cause and effect. Life here spiritually is duality, cause and effects. For every effect or every symptom you see, there's a cause. Well, because you don't know the cause, then it becomes some mysterious thing. When you understand how the body works and the two sides of chemistry, and you finally get the lymphatic system, there's a big aha moment, and then you've got the answers to how all that and how to fix anything and everything out there, dear one. Pretty fun stuff, to be honest with you. And it's just taking what you're doing and knowing and taking it right up the roof and explaining what's going on. And these people's diets are atrocious. And there's a lot of people eating predominantly acid-ash foods. And that's a huge no-no. That's electrolyte devoid diet. So there's no hydration involved. There is dehydration involved. And there's the calcium buffering system that's constantly being used. So the body's being ravished of calcium and dehydrating all the while. And just that's why you see the inflammatory response. It's why you see the edemic response, and why you see all of this there.
Yeah.
Get that, honey, and you're going to be an incredible doc. I really love how she did it.
Already are, just taking that a step further.
Yeah. We're turning our YouTube site onto you because our point has been that you can open these tumors up and clean them out. I've said that for almost 50 years now.
Yeah.
And so you're proving that point, but you can do it on the internal tumors. But there's so much fear in surgeons, it's too bad.
Yeah.
There's no fear to cut someone open.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to get into that human body. She's a surgeon. Don't be afraid to get into that human body and open up these tumors, do the same thing. Because the same thing it is. But fix one or the tumor will be right back. It's like the two girls had big cysts on their hands and she drained them, but then they came right back in one day. Mm-hmm. They showed extreme kidney weakness.
Yeah.
And they're a little younger, so genetically speaking, they were definitely in the kidney weakness side of that, in the adrenals. We know how to look at the body and tell whether you have kidney and adrenal weaknesses. It's obvious. You should be able to identify pituitary weaknesses, your short, your talls. And of course, the pituitary then sits down on thyroids, parathyroids, and then you have the calcium issues, you have the low temperature issues, and then the skin quits filtering, and just blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So fix those things, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So check out our YouTube site if you want. It's Robert Morse, Morse, ND, YouTube. And take a look. We have about 600-700 videos up there teaching the common person how to fix themselves. And they are, aren't they? The world over, the cures are coming in like stacks. So find that out, honey, and you won't be going, I don't know what's causing this anymore. You will know what's causing this and be able to help your clients even deeper.
Yeah. Equip them with how to not just leave your office with something gone, but how, if it does come back, how they can fix that.
Exactly, or how to fix it, how to go after it before that does come back at another location. Just because she took the sac out, that's just the body's protection of that sewage
area
that's in there. Absolutely. If you don't, that's highly acidic brine. If you don't, you have to, you can smell it like crazy. We pulled tumors out for years, highly necrotic, and so there's your proteins. But look at that and understand how you fix that internally, and you got a win-win situation.
I remember my first interaction with a boil. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I was in Colorado at a cabin with family, and my uncle had this boil on his knee, and it finally opened, and literally, just like you see on her show, drain. But at 8 years old, 9, 10, somewhere around in there, the smell of that. Oh my goodness. So
I pulled a tumor out of a lady that ended up like a big apple pie up on her breast. Well, it was so necrotic, I felt so sorry for her because she had to live with it, but I couldn't get it to break loose. It had a blood supply by then. So I sent her to John Hopkins. And John Hopkins let her lay around there for a whole week and looking at, we're going to have to cut your breast off, part of your chest wall, and all this crap like that. Finally, they got a breast surgeon in there. This is the client telling us this story. And he snapped on gloves, lifted up the tumor, and said, oh no, this is just right on top. He not only cut the tumor off, he saved her nipple, saved her breast and everything, and she's alive and well today. And this is a massive tumor. So it was cool stuff. We've been involved in some cool things. That would have been nice to have, not her leeches, but it would have been nice to have some maggot therapy on that sort of thing, and got in there and debrided that a little bit. But this is fun stuff, sweetheart. We wanted to make this video for you. Whether you get it or not, we hope you do, because I think you'll enjoy it, understanding the lymph system a little deeper, and because you sound like a fun lady and maybe open to understanding the body a little deeper than what you were taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much. We appreciate you listening if you are, and have fun, keep debriding those.
And entertaining all of us.
Entertaining all of us, because we've hooked up to thousands of people watching you from our sites, and they laugh because they know exactly why you have them. That's what they're well aware now of what causes that.
Well, Robert and I love your show, and we love to laugh, but I've got my husband turned on to this show, and it is, in one evening, you hear multiple times,
I know, that's cool. And she loves
I'm sitting here eating it up.
This guy had one on the nose, and you see what it does to tissue. Acids do it to tissue. But once you start scraping, you see that necrotic stuff coming out of there. And she goes debriding that a little bit.
Well, you'll notice when you do drain one, you always equate it to food or something like that. But it's never an apple or an orange or a stalk of celery. It's always the...
So which food source causes the most tumors? Dairy products. By far, dairy products are the most congesting, mucus-forming foods on the planet, except for raw.
Yeah.
And a mother's milk, if she's eating an acid-ash diet, her milk becomes acidic. And milk should never be acidic, my
Yeah.
dear one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we love you, and thanks so much for doing your show. We love that, and I hope you find this a benefit.
Thanks.